I'm Matt Chanway, and in today's lesson we're going to look at some better alternatives to traditional bar chords. Bar chords are one of the most common roadblocks and points of frustration for developing guitarists. I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with somebody when you get to know them a little bit and they ask you what you do and you say, oh, I teach guitar. Folks all the time make this comment, oh, I was learning guitar. It was going great until I started trying out bar chords, and then I got so frustrated and quit. Even if you're a person who has the ability to physically play bar chords, they're not always the smoothest sounding chord connections. What I'm going to do today is show you some small movable chord fingerings that are a really good alternative to traditional bar chord shapes. I'm then going to play some riffs using these movable chord shapes in the context of some chord progressions from a few classic tunes, the names of which have been edited slightly just to avoid running afoul of any copyright laws. I'm going to give you both a simple example where I play straight through the chord progression and also a little bit more of an advanced rhythm guitar part using these chord shapes to give you something to work up to a little bit. So really what we're going to be doing today is building chords. And to do this full stop requires a fair bit of knowledge on music theory and just sort of how the fretboard of the guitar works. If you don't have that foundation yet, don't worry. You can use these examples I give you today, practice them and build upon them, and gradually build up to the point where you can build chords on the neck of your guitar. So today's video is not an exhaustive resource on fretboard theory. I'm kind of just going to be covering the bare basics. With that in mind, most tunes that we play consist of a lot of either major or minor chords. Now, major and minor chords actually only have 3 unique notes in them. So that means when we play some of the traditional 5 and 6 string bar chord shapes, we actually have a lot of notes that are duplicated or repeated. So to play a full major or minor chord, we actually only need to play 3 strings at a given time on our guitar. Let's check out some of these examples. So this is a major chord shape. In this shape, the root note is on the D string and it's being played by my ring finger. I happen to be on a G note here with my ring finger, so this is a G major chord. This is another major chord shape. In this shape, the root note is found on the 2nd string, played by my middle finger. My middle finger here happens to be on a G note as well. So this is also a G major chord. Here's one more major chord shape. In this shape, I'm using one finger to press down the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Here, the root note is found on the 3rd string, and I'm strumming the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. That note on the 3rd string is a C note, so this is a C major chord. This is a minor chord shape. Here, the root note is found on the 4th string, and it's being played by my ring finger. My ring finger is on an A note here, so this is an A minor chord. Here is another minor chord shape. In this one, the root note is found on the 2nd string, played by my ring finger. My ring finger happens to be on an E note here, so this is an E minor chord. Here is one last minor chord shape. Here, the root note is found on the 3rd string and it's being played by my ring finger. My ring finger is on a B note here, so this small shape gives us a B minor chord. This first example is a classic chord progression. I'm going to call this one All Along the Clock Tower, just so I don't break any rules there. This chord progression uses just some simple major and minor chords, and using some of these movable chord shapes we looked at, you can get some really cool sounds. Let's check it out. All right, so here I'm playing the chords B flat major, C minor, B flat major, A flat major, and I'm using positions of the chords where I'm playing the root note on the 4th string with my ring finger. So I'm using this fingering for B flat major, then I'm going up to the C minor. My ring finger's getting the root note on the 4th string there. And then the second half of the riff, I'm just taking the same shape that I used for B flat major and just dropping it down a whole step for A flat major. quick slide down. Basically, I'm taking notes from the C minor pentatonic scale. I'm just barring the top 2 strings, playing the 8th frets of the 2nd and 1st strings, strumming those, and then sliding down 2 frets. Then when I come down here, I do a quick little grace note, sort of double stop idea. My index finger's on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and I'm hammering on to the 5th fret of the 3rd string. On the 2nd pass, I just do a slightly different double stop, getting the 3rd frets, the 4th and 3rd strings, and hammering onto the 5th fret of the 4th string there. This next example is probably one of the most famous chord progressions of all time. I'm going to call this one Hotel Nevada. Bet you can't figure out what tune I'm talking about there. This one is a little bit of a slower tempo, and it leaves a lot of space, which works great for experimenting with different chord voicings and also for playing some cool licks in between the chords, which I get into a bit in sort of the more advanced example. Let's have a listen. Okay, so in this one here, the first chord I'm hitting is a B minor chord, and I'm using the chord fingering where my ring finger gets the root note on the 4th string. Next, I'm playing an F sharp major chord, root note on the 2nd string. I'm jumping up the fretboard a bit and playing an A major chord, root note played by my middle finger, again on the 2nd string. Next is E major, index finger barring those strings with the root note on the 3rd string. Here we have a G major chord, root note found on the 2nd string, a D major chord, root note on the 3rd string, an E minor chord with a root note on the 2nd string, and then finishing with an F sharp major chord, the root note on the 4th string. So here, barring the top 3 strings, strumming and hammering on grace note style to the 9th fret of the 1st string. Another little bit of a minor scale sounding run coming out of the F sharp major chord. Then mostly major pentatonic scale runs from this A major chord, basically A major pentatonic scale. Similar fashion for the E major chord, I'm playing a E major pentatonic. For the G major chord, I'm using the G major pentatonic scale for these double stops. The D major pentatonic scale for the D major chord. And then keeping the chords fairly plain towards the tail end there. All right, this last chord progression is a real nice one. I'm going to call it steep. That's probably going to be the toughest one to guess. This chord progression has some interesting movement, which allows for some really neat note choices when you're putting together short licks to connect the chords. Let's have a listen. So here I'm starting with the G major chord with the root note on the 2nd string, and that little lick in between the chord strums there is just based on the G major pentatonic scale. The next chord, B major, I have a little run from the B Phrygian dominant mode. The next chord here, C major, I'm using the sharp 4 by hammering onto that 7th fret of the B string. Again, kind of giving us that sort of yearning, longing sort of sound. Lastly, C minor. I'm playing the C minor chord voicing that has the root note on the 3rd string. This little fill here. This fill really has almost a bit of like a melodic minor type of sound, but could be thought of as C harmonic minor as well. So that'll do it for today's lesson. I really hope you enjoyed these examples and they get you thinking about chords and playing chord progressions and maybe even playing some of your favorite songs in a different way. If you like this video, please feel free to like the video or subscribe to my channel. And thanks again for checking it out. We'll have a new video for you very soon. Stay tuned.